Hello and welcome to TVS Correspondent, the show where we take a look at what's happening in the US and around the world. I am Radzi Ahmad, and with me is our correspondent for the United States of America, Alfian Zaini. Alfian, great to have you on the show again. How have you been?
It's great to see you again too, Razi. It has been great. Hope you have been feeling well as well.
I see that you've been experiencing some good weather up there. I believe springtime is here.
Don't be fooled by the sunshine. It's still cold here.
All right. Hope you're keeping warm. All right, let's get down to it. A lot has been going on over in Europe the past several weeks, particularly in regards to the situation with Ukraine and Russia. Recently, there has been an escalation in tensions between the two countries, reaching levels not seen since the 2014 Russian invasion of Crimea and subsequent war in Donbass. Just last week, Russia has stationed 190,000 troops all around the border to Ukraine, prompting fears from Western countries that an invasion was imminent. Fortunately, so far, no such thing has happened, but tensions remain high, with the White House and President Joe Biden still maintaining that Russia can attack Ukraine at any moment. How do you feel about this, Alfia?
At the White House on Friday, Biden gave an update on the situation in his clearest language yet. President Biden says he's convinced Russia has decided to invade Ukraine. After his remarks, he was asked if he believes um, Russian President Vladimir Putin has made a decision to invade. Biden said that as of this moment, he is convinced that Putin had made the decision to invade, and that he believes that they will target Ukraine's capital, Kiev. But Biden called on the Kremlin to return to the negotiating table to find a peaceful resolution to the rapidly escalating crisis on the Russia-Ukraine border. And I quote, "We are doing everything in our power to remove the reason Russia may give to justify invading Ukraine. Make no mistake, if Russia pursues this plan, it will be responsible for catastrophic and needless war choice. Russia can still choose diplomacy. It is not too late to de escalate and return to the negotiating table. If Russia takes military action, we'll be clear that they have slammed the door on diplomacy. They will have chosen a war, and they will pay a steep price for doing so." End quote.
That's a very stark warning considering that Russia for the past week has not invaded Ukraine. And for several weeks, even as they raised the alarm about Russia's unprecedented military buildup on Ukraine's border, Western leaders and officials emphasized that Vladimir Putin, Russia's president, had not yet made a final decision. What's the justification for President Biden changing his tone now?
For weeks, America and its European allies have warned that Russia would seek to manufacture a pretext for war, such as false flag attack, which would be blamed on Ukraine. In recent days, evidence that such pretexts are being constructed has been coming thick and fast. On February 15th, Mr. Putin claimed that without the slightest evidence, that Ukraine's government was perpetrating genocide in the Donbass. This apparently spontaneous spiral was as much theater as crisis. The idea that Ukraine's army, having observed exemplary restraint for months, would launch an attack while surrounded by as many as 190,000 hostile troops is fanciful. And on February 14th, Sergei Shoigu, Russia's defense minister, told Mr. Putin that the country's exercises were coming to an end and that units would be withdrawn to barracks. Instead, in the days that followed, more forces arrived. According to American defense officials, Russia has now 110 to 125 battalion tactical groups fighting formations of 1,000 or so troops equipped with artillery, air defense, and logistics. Meanwhile, a new satellite imagery published on February 18th shows large numbers of newly arrived aircraft in Lida in Belarus. Armored vehicles belonging to Russia's VDV, airborne forces, and rigged with parachutes have been spotted in several parts of the country. There is also evidence that Russian forces are concealing their movements. So, though Russia has consistently denied that it plans to attack Ukraine, Western security officials say that they have had insight into Mr. Putin's war plans for months, and that the Kremlin's aim is to install a pro-Russian dictatorship in Kiev with Russian control down to the local level, backed with an occupation force if necessary. That's it.
Mm. Well, I reckon they should still hold out for a diplomatic solution for this crisis, but all the evidence is pointing to a storm coming. As this crisis continues and may or may not reach a critical point in the coming days, please be sure to tune in to TVS as we will be bringing you the updates as they come. Thank you for the report, Alfian, and we'll be right back on TVS Correspondent after a short commercial break. Back on TVS Correspondent, and we have some really uplifting news in the medical industry. Scientists appear to have cured a third person and the first woman of HIV using a new stem cell transplant method. According to New York Times, the patient, a woman of mixed race, was treated using a new method that involved umbilical cord blood, which is more readily available than the adult stem cells, which are often used in bone marrow transplants. This is, of course, a very important breakthrough in the fight against HIV and AIDS. But for those not in the know, how does this umbilical cord blood method differ from the bone marrow method, Alfia?
Well, first off, after patients receive an umbilical cord blood transplant, they are then given additional adult stem cells. The stem cells grow quickly but are eventually replaced by cord blood cells. Although cord blood is more adaptable than adult stem cells, it does not yield enough to serve as effective treatments of cancer in adults. As a result, the additional transplant of stem cells helps make up for the scarcity of cord blood cells. Secondly, umbilical cord stem cells do not need to be matched as closely to the recipient as bone marrow cells do. According to Dr. Cohn van Bissien, one of the doctors involved in the treatment, there is an estimated 50 patients per year in the US who could benefit from this procedure. And the ability to use partially matched umbilical cord blood grafts greatly increases the likelihood of finding suitable donors for such patients. According to the scientists, the majority of donors in registries are of Caucasian descent. As a result, allowing for only partial matches can open up the potential to treat patients who have both HIV and cancer, and also those who come from more diverse racial backgrounds. Razzie.
Mm. The fact that the woman involved in the procedure is of mixed race and that she's a woman, that is really important scientifically and really important in terms of the community impact. Now, what can you tell us about the woman and how she's doing now?
Indeed, the woman is being called the New York patient by scientists because she received the treatment at the New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medical Center. In 2013, she was diagnosed with HIV, and 4 years later, she was diagnosed with leukemia. In a procedure known as a haplocord transplant, she was given cord blood from a partially matched donor to treat her cancer. A close relative who also provided her with blood to boost her immune system as she underwent the transplant. Since the woman's transplant in August 2017, she has been in remission from her leukemia for more than 4 years. 3 years after the transplant, she and her doctors discontinued her HIV treatment 14 months since she has yet to experience any resurgent virus. Razzie.
That's great to hear, and I hope she'll be in good health for the rest of her life. Now, looking towards the future, could this procedure be widely used to treat HIV and cancer for the masses, Alfian?
Well, that's the catch. The procedure is still so incredibly risky that it's only performed on patients with both AIDS and leukemia. It's a very unique treatment option that emerges when someone has both of these diseases and is already almost certain to die from them. You'd also need to be lucky enough to be matched with a compatible donor that happens to have an incredibly rare mutation that makes them immune to HIV. Having said that, it is an incredible concept though some have used the term immune system transplant, which isn't a bad description if I'm understanding correctly. They essentially eliminate your immune system, which AIDS is now already doing anyways. They give you a bone marrow transplant to treat the leukemia, then marrow from the donor can then repopulate your immune system. So an immune system transplant basically, right? And if the donor has a very rare mutation that provides immunity to HIV infection, you may well now be cured of HIV and immune to the virus. But that's no simple procedure. Bone marrow transplant is going to be rough, and like any transplant, there's a big risk of the body rejecting the donated organ, or in this case, the donated organ rejecting the body. You're getting another person's immune system, and it's going to think you are a foreign body, because you literally are. So with AIDS, you had no immune system. Now you have an immune system that is hyperactively attacking your body. So, so far, three people have been cured using this extreme method, and sadly, two have already passed from resurgent leukemia. Though I believe they stayed HIV negative for their entire life. Thankfully, it sounds like this woman is doing so much better right off the bat and is a lot younger than the other two, Razi.
Mm. It's crazy that we can do things like this, but it's still a long way from a broad cure for AIDS. Nonetheless, we're getting closer and closer every day, I believe. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Alfian, as always, thank you for the report and for the insight.